The first person I'd like to introduce is Liz Curran. She is the lead organizing team member, and she kind of keeps everybody on their toes and where they're supposed to be on time and gets everything organized for everybody else. Thank you, Liz. And I'd also like to introduce Anne. Anne, is it Udaloy? Udaloy, thank you. And she is also on the executive organizing team. She kind of specializes in environmental issues. And she's the kind of the interim assistant to Liz. And Taya DeYoung, who is so talented, I just hardly even know where to begin. But she is on the Health Committee, along with Pam Dallin, excuse me, and these kind of co-chair that Health Committee, and that's the committee I'm on with North Seattle. So I have to admit, this is an incredible organization of people who are really dedicated to solving some of the problems in our community and in our area, and they are fearless and amazing. So I just want to introduce them all to you, and I'll let them speak now for themselves.
All right, thank you, Kathleen. I'll go ahead and start out here. We wanted to start by giving everybody sort of a background on who we are and what we do. And so I want to first mention that we came into existence a couple of years ago. It was January 2017, coincided with the election of Donald Trump. And we started as a Facebook Indivisible group, and by the end of January, we had our first meeting. We came together, first of all, to fight the Trump agenda, and more and more as we've evolved over the last couple of years, we've also decided to be more proactive about issues, to really look at our progressive values and advocate for policies, legislation, and candidates that will get us to where we want to be, not just constantly in this battle. We do try to be very welcoming. We think it's important to have a diverse community to share their perspectives. We like to connect with other like-minded organizations, and I'd like to thank you for inviting us today too, because this is a great opportunity for us to share information, learn from each other, and to work with such an influential organization. We're also very team-oriented, so we meet as a group, and we do a lot of learning. We do speakers, but then we have our breakout groups that specialize in certain areas and dig deeper into different subject matter. And we found that to be a really effective way of organizing ourselves so that we can then pass on information about actions to people who care about all of the issues but don't have time to hit them all. So really it's just our belief that democracy requires participation, and we want to give people an opportunity as much as possible to participate.
So fundamental to everything we're doing is just a deep belief in the power of grassroots organizing and the importance of participating in a participatory democracy. And I think a lot of us recognized after the election of Trump that many people had been focusing on their specific area and their profession, but not recognizing the risk that the political environment posed to the fabric of democracy itself. And as people reacted to recognizing the risks posed by this unique time, we came together and worked with each other as much as anything to teach each other how to participate and also to amplify the voices of the groups that already existed and that were doing such wonderful work in our community.
We started, our first meeting had over 200 people, and that's sort of died down as people have become overwhelmed, or I think we're all experiencing that. And we're constantly trying to be aware of how can we provide the kind of activist environment that will attract people and give them a reason to come and feel like they can actually be effective at what they're doing. So we realized that people came to us with varying interests, varying degrees of activism and experience. And so really trying to take advantage of the members who've had a lot of experience and can add to the direction of the group. And just really recognizing that some people are there needing to learn more, wanting to learn more, and that we have people of all different abilities and interests. And I'd say more than anything, we really try to make room for everybody to feel like they're making a difference, regardless of their interests and their abilities.
So we decided very early on that we didn't want our organization to be monolithic and focused on only one topic. Originally, one of the things that brought us together was opposition to the Trump regime. Realistically, opposing doesn't give you progress. It can only stop things. It can't create the civilization that we'd really like to see that we can hand on to future generations. And as a result, the group morphed from trying to do things as one entity very quickly into saying, why don't people just find the areas where they personally feel the greatest passion, whether it's healthcare, environment, civil liberties, which issues cause you to find joy in your life, where do you want to contribute? And we broke into smaller standing teams that focus on those issues, and people can bring their experience, their passions to bear on that. But we also come back together again as a large group to take specific actions. And it gives us the power of allowing people who are passionate about one area, such as healthcare, to share their passion and their actions, what they'd like to do next, with a larger group, but also get input from groups who, for example, are focusing on the environment and have a top action for the week that they'd like to bring to the table for the entire group to take part in. And that's been really powerful for us because people can focus on and share in their passion while also learning from other people who have passions in other areas and sharing those voices, not just within our North Seattle community, but taking it back to the other organizations we participate in.
These are the current standing teams or subgroups that we have operating now: environment, health and wellness, which is an awesome committee, and immigration, elections, and we have one that calls themselves Gremlin Gate, which doesn't really explain much, so we decided to portray it as understanding threats to our democracy. And they do all dive in to what's going on currently, as well as trying to advance some bigger issues like healthcare for all that we want to work towards. And it's been really amazing to have people come up at the end and say, you know, just do these 2 or 3 things this week, and you feel like even though I lead elections and I can tell what other people what we need to do that week, I care passionately about healthcare and the environment, and I feel really, really excited that they're giving me some things to do that will make a difference.
So this has not been an easy evolution. Starting with a couple hundred people in a room and trying to grow an organization that people find meaningful, where they find support, where they find effective opportunities to implement the vision of what they would like civilization to become, has been quite a challenge. And early on, as you can imagine, the group formed by a couple people sitting at a table in a coffee shop and saying, let's put up a Facebook post. And then hundreds of people showed up, and it took a while to get a pattern of organization where there's kind of a sense of how the members have pretty much decided how they would like the meetings to run. And we also recognize that we do need a certain level of structure. So, for example, we need a community agreement that basically just says we won't tolerate people abusing each other at our meetings. Our meetings have to be productive spaces, but they also have to be welcoming by being safe. If someone wants to be abusive, they will be asked to leave. We developed bylaws because we have elected positions, and those positions are basically the people who do a lot of the organizational background. Liz will get into it in a little bit here. But we wanted to make certain, because we are raising money, we are renting rooms, we are buying equipment, we are supporting activities like our tabling down at the Northwest Detention Center, and there are funds involved, and we didn't want an odd group of 20 people to just show up and walk away with our treasury. So we wanted to have enough structure that we had control over our future. And we proposed and developed a set of bylaws that allow us that control and that security over our own future. And these documents are not designed to keep people out. They're designed to make the group have control of its own future by preventing a rump caucus from coming in and walking off with the group, which is something that can happen and does happen at times. Once that was laid down, we've been able to kind of move on smoothly. We have procedures in place so that people can participate but not monopolize, so that voices can be heard, but they can't be heard saying the same thing again and again and again. And we have modicums of civil debate. You know, we don't allow straw man arguments. We don't allow ad hominem attacks. We don't allow much of what's seen on the news as people talking and conversing as if they were experts in a political environment. We're trying to get back to the fact that we all need to learn how to talk together, disagree civilly, make decisions, move on, and do stuff.
So our organizing team is made up of 4 elected positions. We had our first elections last June. Lead organizer, the position I've been filling, an assistant lead organizer, secretary, and the treasurer. On our organizing team, we also ask for up to 2 representatives from each of the standing teams. The goal really is to make sure that all of the members have, as easily as possible, a voice, so they can come to their reps from their standing team on the organizing team. They can come to anybody on the organizing team, office elected positions or not. And with ideas, we really welcome ideas. I mean, we really want to be driven by what does the membership want? What are the topics? What do they want to learn about? What kinds of actions do they want to take? What do they think is going well? What do they think is not going well? So we try to make ourselves very accessible to all of the membership to make sure that everybody's voices are being heard and we're not guessing what the organization should be doing. When it goes a little silent, which it does, we do take a little bit of a leadership role, but there's 13 of us, and we are reflecting all the different teams as well as ourselves. So we get a lot of really good ideas and cooperation, and the diversity of opinions and ideas is really, really strong and helpful. We do weekly meetings, and it does take quite a bit of preparation. We rotate our facilitators from the organizing team, and you have to put together an agenda. We're very often booking speakers, and there's a whole process to that. We put together a slideshow for every week. We have a standing room that we use, but we have to pay the rent, and so just holding the meetings becomes pretty time-consuming. And we usually have, I would say, probably 30 to 40 people show up a week, and over a month, that makes up about 80 to 100 people is what is what we've counted recently. So I think, and then our organizing team meets once a month, and a lot of what we're doing at that is that meeting is just planning upcoming topics and speakers, and we really try to make sure that all the standing teams are invited to bring in speakers or topics from their area so that we're all learning together. But we also do skill building and all sorts of different topics that we've led ourselves. So that's pretty much what our organizing team is.
I want to point out one of the things that we've done very intentionally is we've made this organizing team a broad group and involved members from all the standing teams by design. And a part of that is a lot of people are very passionate and really want to get engaged in civic action, but they really aren't skilled at public speaking, or they've never drawn up a meeting agenda, or they've never facilitated a meeting. They don't have some of the fundamental skills that they'll need to have to be activists for the rest of their lives. The organizing team brings voices forward and requires sharing the load among those voices, not only to engage and encourage and grow awesome activists, but also to avoid the what I might call the Napoleon syndrome of one person taking over the group and deciding that this is what the group must do, and then members fall away because they don't want to do that. The group gets smaller and smaller until it's that person and their close friends. We want to avoid that. We also want to avoid the other side, which is organizer burnout. And that's a very real risk. We're in this for a long time. I think we all recognize that the threats we face as a civilization are not threats that will be resolved by one election. We can't, one thing goes right, we're not over. This is the rest of our lives now. This is a challenge that we'll be taking on for the rest of our lives, and we need to pace ourselves. And the nice thing about having a broad group sharing this load is we also get to avoid exhaustion and burnout, and what I might call the martyrdom syndrome, where somebody goes storming off going, if you only knew how much I was doing for you. It's really important that people be required to share the load. So that's what the team tries to do. That's a big part of how we're trying to learn to be better activists. And it's also fundamental to taking on some complex issues. By having a large enough group and shifting the roles regularly enough, we can each of us step back now and then and say, what's holding us back? What do we need to learn next to be better at what we're doing? So, for example, we were going to lots of rallies and marches, and there's some real concerns about personal safety, and a lot of people have either never gone to a rally or march or haven't since the 60s. So we did internal training on how to attend a march peacefully. What are peacekeepers doing? What's the role of the police? How can you go to a rally with a plan in mind so that you know that you're going to meet up with your group, have a great day, and get home safely without concern? How do we make it easy, remove barriers? How do we set up carpools? When we got into the election cycle, we realized, hey, the PDC, the Public Disclosure Commission, has a huge amount of very useful data. How do we access that? What does it mean? How can we find out who's contributing to certain candidates? So we studied it and we taught ourselves. This is very much an effort to identify things we need to know to be better at building the civilization we want to have and to be better at being activists.
We also started having speakers, and I'm kind of amazed at the people who've been willing to come and talk to us. We've had some young environmentalists, the Sunshine Movement. Jamie Margolin has been there. Joe Freeman came to talk to us. That was amazing. We've had immigration talks. Allison McCaffrey from League of Women Voters came and talked to us about redistricting and gerrymandering. We've also we had members of ours lead topics such as LGBTQ issues, redlining, hate groups, and sexism in politics are just a few examples. We also have I'm going to give a little plug for our next Sunday meeting. We have Mark McDermott, an economic justice and labor educator, coming, doing a 2-hour workshop on making the American dream real for everyone, and we're really excited and hope that people will come and join us. Should I go ahead? And then we had all 3 of the 8th congressional district representatives running during the primaries. We had Kim Schreier, Jason Ritterizer, and Shannon Hayter. Emily Randall came to talk to us. Mona Das, Lisa Brown came from Spokane at one point to talk to us. So we've been really, really honored to have so many of them willing to come and talk to us.
I think the reason why we were able to attract so many speakers and why candidates want to come and tap into us as a resource is because and we'll talk about this a little bit later, but we've also really been kind of emerging as a real force. Lots of people know who we are. They know that we can mobilize large groups of people to do canvassing and things like that. So I think that people know that when they come and talk to us, that they're talking to groups that are ready for action. From the very start, people were just wanting to take action and do something rather than just bring their hands. So I think that one of the things that's allowing us to continue to rise is that we are very willing to not just talk about it and examine the problem, but to really put our effort, put forth the effort and take action, really meaningful and substantial action for change. We're change agents. We're agents. People in this room might not know this, but I feel like PNHP really kind of set my trajectory a little bit in the healthcare area. I went to Pramila Jayapal's first town hall, and there was a PNHP group out front handing out flyers. You probably don't remember me, but I remember you. It very well could have been you, David, that handed me that flyer. But I started educating myself after that, and I really became very passionate about the healthcare subject, and the healthcare group has grown to be an umbrella group that covers not just healthcare and health and wellness, but all kinds of wellness issues: gun responsibility, mental health, recovery, social justice, equity. We do a lot of things because all of these things are so interconnected. So we've become sort of an umbrella group. But in the beginning, we were concentrating on protecting the ACA, and there was quite a bit of discussion and debate in our group about whether or not we should do that or not. But in the beginning, we started there, but now we are full-on supporting universal health care, and it's a really robust group. And right now, with the legislative session being over, we're focusing on education and outreach. So I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit later, but I just wanted to say that one of the things I think that our health and wellness group is really doing well is networking with other health and wellness groups. And so I think that you all are a part of that. Absolutely and unequivocally, we are all working together for the same thing. And I think that that's another thing that NSP really does well, is building coalitions and really kind of finding ways to, to maximize our effort that way. So.
All right. When we first started out, we were really just getting our toes in the water and trying to figure out what to do. So we did do a lot of, I think Ann mentioned, a lot of rallies and marches. We have members that have been going regularly to the meetings with the senator's staff downtown on Tuesdays. And that was a good place to start, but then we felt that we needed to kind of learn to do things that were maybe a little bit more proactive. This is where we started thinking, okay, we're voicing our opposition, but what do we want and what can we do? So very quickly, and I think one of the places we parted most obviously with the national indivisible groups that are focused on national campaigns is we thought probably one of the best places to focus was our own backyard. And there was the Senate race for Manka Dhingra, literally just the legislative district next door. So we went and learned how to canvass, which at that point was a kind of a haphazard activity because
The local political organizations hadn't quite realized how motivated people were and how much people wanted to learn and go and do things. So we had the good fortune of tying in with some wonderful staff people and learning how to canvass and recognizing what a difference having that one legislative seat change parties made to what could be accomplished than even in a short session the next year. And the opportunity that we have to mobilize not just around an issue like, say, I-1600 for an initiative, but for candidates, and going and making certain that we get excellent legislators into office has been really powerful. So if you'd like to. We did canvassing all through 2018, as Liz mentioned. We focused on the 8th Congressional District, and we had heard from every congressional candidate. And I just want to point out how useful it is for our members to actually hear from the candidates and find out whether these people share their passions. People will do a lot of work if they understand why they're doing the work, and they decide for themselves that that's something that they choose to do because it aligns with their goals. It's where they want to go. So having heard from the candidates, we went out and canvassed in the 8th. We also canvassed for Bill Ramos and Lisa Cowan down ticket. We canvassed for Emily Randall in the 26th, Claire Wilson in the 30th, Mona Das in the 47th, and all of those candidates were successful in their races, sometimes by just around 100 votes. So we put out more than 40 canvass events and knocked on thousands and thousands and thousands of doors. And we do feel we made a difference, a very important difference. And one of the things we learned as we did that was how to make canvassing fun. So I assure you, if you would like to learn to canvass, you can join us. You can meet us at our carpool locations, go out, work with a buddy. You'll have a fun day. You'll really have a great time. You'll come back feeling like canvassing is something you enjoy too. And this fall, we'd love to see you.
We're strategic about our actions. Like, you know, I think that that's a really, really important part of having the elections group, really studying the candidates and studying where we can make a difference. And so what you learn when you become more and more active is that you really want to spend your time in places that you can make a change. And so I felt like I knew, without having to do all the work, because we're sharing the load, I knew that when I went out that I could really make a difference in that district. And I knew that every door I knocked on, I had the potential to turn someone who was really not sure which way they wanted to go. I really feel like every single conversation mattered because we were in purple districts, knocking on doors and really securing the people who were kind of leaning the way we wanted them to go, but also people who really hadn't given it a lot of thought, and they remember that someone knocked on their door. And so because I just really feel like I knew, I was really confident when I was going door to door that the work of identifying where I needed to put my actions, it really helped a lot, and that's because of the work that was done before we got to the carpool. You know. Thank you for doing that.
And that had a lot to do with another collaboration. I went to a Fuse meeting. We worked with a few other organizations who really helped us with that. What are the seats that are winnable? What are the seats that are flippable? We really needed to increase our leads in the state legislature in both houses. And so they gave us some idea, plus, you know, we just had to go after the 8th. We were surprised, like everybody, that Lisa Brown was a contender, and we actually did some work for her campaign. We had a group that went over the week before the election and did some canvassing over in Spokane too. And we were really, really excited about that possibility. We also wanted to make sure that people of different abilities and interests were able to participate too. I mean, this was our focus. We actually canceled all of our speakers and topics in the fall for all of our meetings until the election. And we found that a lot of our members really liked postcarding. You know, they didn't feel comfortable knocking on doors or on the phone, or they just couldn't do that many doors. But postcarding is sort of a new method of campaigning that kind of came out last year. And another collaboration, Wallingford Indivisible, had really became experts in that and the PDC regulations around it. So a lot of our group ended up going down and working with their group and learning how to do it. And then we started holding some sessions and did all of the PDC, and we have a registered pack so that we could do it properly. We also did get some phone banking and text banking. Text banking is another one that's also new and wasn't really available for a lot of the state candidates until like the last couple of weeks before the election. But some of our members went down and worked with Wallingford Indivisible, people who had mastered those techniques too, and learned that. And we actually did some phone banking too. So we were able to contribute even more to Lisa Brown and Carolyn Long down in the third CD, their campaigns without actually having to get in our car and go that far.
Taya made an excellent point, and that is the single most valuable resource we have is the time of our volunteers. We want, when people show up to our meetings, we want their time to be well spent. We want them to feel like they have gotten what they hoped for from our meetings, or if they're asked to do, to support a specific campaign, that they understand why, they understand the value of what they're doing, and they can see the results of what they're doing. And that has been an imperative for us. The backside of that is we recognize that people have different proclivities and abilities. Some people hate phone banking. I don't want to ask a person who hates phone banking to phone bank. If they'd rather postcard, I'd rather have them postcard. We're trying to find activities where people can find a lane that they enjoy, not just that they can slog through it, but they actually can enjoy that activity. That said, it's something we all have to be doing now. This is no time to say, I'm only going to eat the chocolates that appeal to me. We have to eat our Brussels sprouts. We have to eat the vegetables that we don't particularly care for in order to have a healthy nation. So it's what we're trying to do is create an environment where people can find something that they will do, and hopefully that they enjoy doing, but they also understand that they really must do this. We really have to get this done. We don't have a lot of time to waste on this. The future of our planet, the future of our democracy is at stake.
I should point out too that we don't endorse any candidates. We do endorse some initiatives, that kind of thing. We never endorse candidates. And so this is another area where it's at the discretion of the membership. We present information about the candidates and why we think we should support them, but it's a voluntary act to actually support them.
Any candidate you want, but support somebody.
Yeah.
I like to call it choose your own adventure.
Yeah.
You know,
Very good.
they give you all the information you need, and then you really choose your own adventure. You decide where you want to put your energy, and then it's sort of habit forming, I think.
We got to early 2018, and we thought, well, what do we do now? We don't have any elections coming up for a while. And so we decided to focus on the Washington State Legislature. And so we, again, educated ourselves. Kathy Sakahara from League of Women Voters came, taught us how to monitor legislation online. We started going to League of Women Voters workshops, teaching us what was the legislation that was coming up in the current session. We worked with the other organizations. I was working with the Washington Voting Justice Coalition. And this was an area where we could really go back to our standing groups, and each group focused on certain pieces of legislation that they wanted to prioritize for the year. And then we came up with a tracking tool. Our secretary came up with a tracking tool that would let us know what needed to be done, when phone calls needed to be made, when pressure needed to be put on some committees to get legislation out of committee. became very effective. A lot of our members started attending lobby days with League of Women Voters or some of the gun groups. Let's see, I'm trying to think. There were some yeah, there was some
National
different,
Association for Mental Illness,
yeah.
a lot of healthcare, lobby days.
Yeah, and you know, we learn and you meet with your legislators. So again, you know, that became really powerful. So by the time we came into 2019 session with bigger majorities and a new biennium and lots of legislation, I felt like we really had learned a lot, and we were putting it to use. It became a major topic at all of our meetings.
So we were pretty good at that in 2018, but we were just getting our toe wet. And in 2019, oh my gosh, that was a long session. People knew us because we'd helped get them elected. Well, our Kremlin Gate sponsored the presidential transparency bill and went down there and forced them to get it through to sponsors. And so this year was really a deep dive into legislation, very exciting. And we ended up seeing healthcare saw better than two-thirds of our bills we supported come through and get signed. So
We were tracking 23 or 26 bills. That's another thing that I find really satisfying is like I realize that not everyone is going to track 26 bills. But like I said, it's habit forming for some of us. And so, but each time we would share the information, we would share our knowledge, you would feel like you were really, like it wasn't just me calling my representatives, it was 10 or 15 or 20 people that received the information that were making those calls. And what I'm hearing from Healthcare for All and from PNHP is that it was those calls. It was those calls that mattered. It was when we would, so basically every tally mark does matter. Every conversation does matter. And we got, the 5822 all the way to the budget, so I really feel like it really doesn't matter when you pool your resources, you pool your knowledge and expertise, you really are having a ripple effect. You're really, really making a difference. And it's not just one or two individuals taking action, you're mobilizing larger groups of people.
I think one of the things too that we really learned is that the easier that we make it for people, the more likely they are to do it. So, as the session went by, we started making lists of the committee members and their email addresses and even some sample scripts so that people could email or call easily by just going down and doing it. And I had people saying things like, so people were saying that they actually would set aside like an hour on Wednesdays or something and just go through our list and do all the emails and the calls and everything. So that's, I think something else that we will build on next year is how easy and quick can we make it and unintimidating for people. They don't have to know all of the ins and outs of the issues. That we can kind of give them an overview. We can give them resources if they want to dig deeper. But mostly, here's an overview, and here's just a sample of what you can tell the legislators. So that was really, we've learned a lot in that area.
So the next slide, when we get it up and going, is about our initiative signature gathering efforts. And this is an area of pretty open discussion among us because initiatives take a huge amount of work. And we've been stepping back a little and saying, okay, what are we getting? What kind of a response are we getting from doing all this work? And we were deeply involved in 3 initiative signature gathering campaigns. I-940, De-Escalate Washington, I-1600 for Washington's healthcare, and I-1631, which was the clean energy bill. And one of the things that I observed, and I know happened for myself, is 1631 was focused on teaching us how to get lots of signatures really fast, but never told us how to have a conversation with anybody or discuss the fine details of the initiative or what it would mean if it were approved. 940 did. 1,600 did. And the strategies for those initiatives were not so much, yeah, we're going to get every signature we can possibly get as quickly as possible. It was, we're going to have conversations so that our community learns what we're doing and why we're doing it. And even if our initiative fails, we'll have had tens of thousands of awesome conversations. And next year, we'll have more tens of thousands of awesome conversations. And we're going to raise this in community meetings at Kiwanis clubs and legislative districts. We're going to raise it in every group we can and keep having those conversations. That kind of an effort builds change. 1631 didn't just fail, it made a lot of things politically impossible in the legislature this year. 1600 didn't pass, but it made a lot of conversations possible in the legislature this year. So we're learning as we go what we want to do, how we want to do it, and which actions we're going to support, because again, the time of our volunteers is incredibly precious. And the question of whether we're building towards constructive change or not really matters to us all. So initiatives, something we're learning about.
I think one of the things that came up as we approached the midterm elections last fall too, and it relates to both the initiatives, what you're saying, and candidates, is somebody said, what if our candidates all lose? And you know, we had one of our organizing teams say, you know, we're here for the long term. I mean, this isn't all going to happen at once. And so, you know, it's a matter of some will win, some will lose, but we got to stick with it. And like you say, you know, we flipped some of the more low-hanging seats, and there are others that will follow because of conversations that we've had. In some of the districts that have been redder, that didn't know there were other progressive people in their area, they've had conversations now with people either by phone banking or canvassing. And those are the next ones that we'll be able to go to and look towards making some long-term bigger changes. So I think Taya referred to also, we've decided that education, outreach, and coalition building are extremely important to us. I think all of us have believed that we've come in as generalists who want to act. And we are turning more and more to organizations that are experts in those areas to see how we can learn from them and support their work. We discovered, as I mentioned, with Wallingford Indivisible, they had gone ahead and become experts in certain things like postcarding and text banking. We thought, well, why should we reinvent that? Why don't we just join forces? So we've actually had meetings with them talking about how we can collaborate and share information and share skills. So, we've met with quite a few different organizations. We have members that participate in the alphabet resistance. You've seen them on the freeway with the flipping the signs. It's just an awesome thing that's actually getting national attention that a couple of local women came up with. And we have members that love to do that. We've met with communities of color and gone to some of their events, educational events. A lot of us work with the Democratic Party. I mean, when we go canvassing, we're using their walk lists on the candidates that we have chosen to support. We've gone to their training sessions. Code Blue is another one in our area that is doing a lot with the phone banking to text banking that we're working with. So, you know, we're always looking for different ways that we can learn and collaborate with others.
Within the healthcare network, there's so many healthcare activist groups right now. I feel like that the healthcare is a human right. It, you know, is a really big part of pulling us all together, because when we decided to do our health panel, you know, we knew that Physicians for a National Health Plan could tell us about the National Health Plan. And so Kathleen came and talked to us and really helped us understand from Millersville only days after it was released, right? And so we tapped into that, and we knew that we had a source for that. And the Healthcare for All really helped us with the state legislation, and they know people on the inside, and they played a really smart game, and they got amendments added to the Cascade Care bill. They got amendments added to 5822, and then when 5822 didn't go through as a bill, they got it into the budget. And we put our energy into that, but Healthcare for All, we were working together with Healthcare for All, and I feel like the people from Washington who pushed really hard for the initiative, they brought such intense passion and energy that I think that some of what happened this year, and it's already been alluded to, is that provide that leverage. So all of us have a part to play, and I think that building of that and strengthening of that coalition is really, really important, because right now we need to really debunk the myths, and we need to really, really plant these seeds that'll grow, and then we'll be able to take this not just from here in Washington State in Seattle bubble, but out, and really, really change the landscape at the national level. So I feel like each group has a different area. And I think that's why I think this coalition building and really connecting with other groups is really important. And then we're like a really strong and powerful workforce that can really get out there and get things done. I mean, when we show up and we work hard. So I think that we have a lot to offer, but we also recognize that we have to work together.
Thanks. Yeah, I was going to say, I think, when we talk to other groups, we say we're sort of the worker bees. If you have some great actions that we can participate in, we can rally our troops and get volunteers. And that's really the value, I think, that we can provide to other organizations. And we're constantly looking to learn how to be better activists and to be more effective. I mean, that's our goal. And kind of the really fun thing that's happened along the way is that we've really developed a family. This organization, we had a summer picnic last year. We had a holiday get together at the end of the year to kind of celebrate the election and all the things that we participated in that went well. And it's really brought people together. You're out canvassing for 4 hours, and you really get to know people, and you share your background. Someday I want to write a book about the activist background of all these people, because some of it goes back decades, and even the ones that have been doing it for 2 years have some great stories. It's been really good, and I think it really helps the cohesiveness and our moving forward together.
Okay, I just wanted to say that right now we're working very hard in healthcare on Medicare for All. On May the 30th, we have a showing of Fix It in Linwood at Verdant. Each of you have got an email about it, and we're hoping that everybody in this room can bring 1 or 2 friends who are kind of thinking that what the insurance companies are saying is probably way more true than what we're saying, and they can see that. And we also need a lot more canvases with the National Nurses United through their action map. And so we're looking for people to step forward and help us with the canvassing. Last time we did was a tabling on May the 4th in a park, and that was fun, and we got to talk to a lot of people and see a lot of prom people.
So I just want to share that I think that what we're trying to do is small d democracy. And years ago in my misspent youth, I spent a number of years in a workers' co-op, and I grew to love small d democracy. I grew to love environments where the people can decide their own future. And I believe in it. I honestly believe that America can become the democratic nation that we have longed for it to be, but only if we actually get out, talk to each other, and do stuff. And I'm just really thrilled that we found a community where this is encouraged, and we can, by creating an environment, see people just grow into that environment. And we'd love to have anyone interested join us at our meetings.
Question, you said that NSP doesn't endorse candidates, but you go out and support them. So what's the difference?
We research candidates, we have them come and speak, and For example, I think a good example was the three Democrats who were running for the 8th Congressional District position last year. We didn't take a position. We had all three of the leading contenders come and invited people, if you want to work for them before the primaries, donate to their campaigns, whatever, that's completely up to you. We decided as an organization that whoever won the primary, anybody who wants to work for that candidate, here's a canvas, here's a phone bank, here's the ways that you can participate. So it's really up to people to decide that they want to support those candidates. And we really didn't get much pushback. I mean, I think, you know, we chose races where it was really important to support a particular candidate.
There is no requirement of any member to perform any particular action. This is entirely volunteer organization, and people volunteer to do what they choose to do. But we talk about it a lot, and we explain why we are organizing canvases for a specific candidate or other activities. And if people believe in that action, they will show up and participate in it. If they don't believe in that action, it won't happen. We saw, for example, a tremendous shift of energy from I-1631 to I-1600 because we'd go out with both initiatives and intentionally going out with both initiatives so that we'd be there as a large team. And we could answer questions for 1600 and we couldn't answer questions for 1631. And so we started putting 1631 aside and picking up 1600 initiatives and just doing the one initiative because of the way it was structured. So again, it's free will. Nobody's going to be forced to do anything. And people are supporting the campaigns they're passionate about. We do have procedures in our bylaws to endorse candidates. We haven't invoked them yet because it hasn't been appropriate or necessary. And we do have concerns that it could be counterproductive in some circumstances. So, you know, if somebody really wants to make a pitch about a candidate to the entire team, they're welcome to, and they will or will not gain support. They may not. Depends on the candidate, depends on whether that race is important. And if they can make a compelling argument, they'll have resources.
You got progressive in your name, so I assume you're supporting progressives. And you said you had a way to deal with people who come in and disrupt. Say somebody stood up and said, you guys got to support Donald Trump in the election, and you know, didn't shut up and blah, blah, blah.
I probably talked to him for a long time. Because I enjoy the challenge of talking to people who disagree and finding common ground. And I am a fan of the and, you know, to really try. I think that, especially around the healthcare issue, that it's really, really important for us to understand other points of view. I actually think Republicans would, maybe not extreme Republicans, but Republicans would really vote in favor of Medicare for all if they really, really understood how beneficial it would be to our economy. And how this could really, there's a lot of really good stuff in there, but as long as we're not talking, then I don't think we're getting anywhere. So we're nonpartisan, and we are willing to engage with anyone who's going to be reasonable and engage with us in a reasonable way.
All of your resources are available to any candidate, but they have to win over people to go.
Unlikely,
Yeah. I mean, their values. They have to come up with something that shares their values. I mean, a lot of that conversation. We have over 3,000 people on our Facebook page, and a lot of those conversations happen with people that never show up to the meetings. We consider our membership the people who show up to the meetings and are willing to do things. And there have been times, you know, when people have conversations, as long as they're having a conversation. But that's why we have the posting guidelines and the bylaws too, because we've had situations where people will not converse in a way that's productive, and we want to keep people from being harmed, and so people have been taken off our Facebook page, for that. But it's not the content; it's more the way they converse.
I'm sort of loosely involved with both groups. And what they're talking about is something that Americans lack, and that's civil dialogue of different issues. So you might like Trump and I might not, but we can talk civilly about that and reach conclusions and learn. And that's what they're talking about. They've got different positions, some of them, but they talk civilly about it. Okay? We need that.
There is also the issue of what would happen if somebody came to intentionally disrupt a meeting. And we're a private club. We're not a state chartered democratic institution. We don't have to have our doors open to anybody who chooses to barge in. We're a private club. Well, actually, a number of our members, for peace of mind, actively trained in peacekeeping. And we have developed procedures. And, you know, if there's an issue, we have a dozen people in a room of 40 who are well trained to de-escalate, to calm things down, and to take appropriate actions to make sure that the members come together to have a meeting, not to listen to a disruptor. And so we will take whatever actions we need to make certain that the meeting can carry on and the memberships can achieve the goals that they came here for. And the disruptor can't just shut us down for the week.
Brand new Congress, I wonder if you have looked at brand new Congress. You know, we had 23 candidates on the ballot across the country. Only one made it to Washington, D.C., and her name is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. It's election, but their platform is definitely Medicare for all.
Okay,
Thank you.
We'll definitely look into it.
I'm glad that you mentioned that too, because what we have also done with our postcarding and calling is sometimes we were actually at one point calling other states.
Yeah.
So that is something that is within our purview. We do that in areas where we really feel like we can make a difference. So that is something that we do. We do take actions outside of the state through a special phone system.
Yeah, and I think, you know, one of the things that we've also stated for 2020 is that we don't want to get so carried away with the presidential election that we forget that we need to continue to try to grow leads in our state legislature. We need to at least maintain the U.S. House, if not grow the leads there, and we need to flip the Senate. All of those are just as important. So as we prepare to figure out where our efforts are best used in 2020, we'll be looking at all of those.
Thanks for bringing that up.
So you guys are really impressive with your grassroots organizing. So any coalition would love to have you as a member. So I'm on the steering committee for Healthcare as a Human Right Washington that I think you're familiar with. Do you have somebody appointed as a representative to, we're gearing up for the next meeting on
June 4th.
4th.
I need to, so we're a democratic organization, and so we have to get health and wellness group to agree to that, and then we have to bring it to the larger group to become a member organization. Right now, we are an endorsing organization for healthcare as a human right, and it took a really long time for me to get the information regarding healthcare as a human right requirements for becoming a member organization. I just recently received that, and so I was going to take that back to the group and find out if they wanted to become a member organization. It doesn't necessarily require a lot of money. It just requires a willingness to donate resources and energy to it. So I'm hoping that our group will want to take that next step towards being a member organization. But there are certain actions that do require a vote, and that is one of them.
We're not quite as tedious as an LA,
So, yeah.
but we do have processes.
Yeah, but I'm optimistic that someone will be sitting at that table.
Well, the whole idea is to reinvigorate the organization.
Yes.
It's been around for 4 years or so.
Yes.
So the steering committee has been meeting almost weekly for 6 or 8 weeks now and reaching out to member organizations and other endorsing organizations that have signed up and had a presence in the past. So we're focusing on the June 4th general meeting. We haven't had one in a while. So,
My understanding is that even if we choose not to be member organization, that we can still attend. So
Yeah.
I will be there.
yes, you can attend, and you can participate in the discussion, but if there are any
Right,
votes,
I know.
you can't vote. But I think member and endorsing, I think endorsing organizations can vote too. I'll have to check that.
No, we can attend, but not vote.
Endorsing?
Endorsing can attend, but not vote. You have to be a member organization to vote.
I just want to comment. I just started a treatment program with a chiropractor up on 183rd and Aurora. And his name is Tim Norton. I think it's Norton. And he happens to be, I think, a member of, if not the head of, the Chamber of Commerce, Charlotte. And as we were talking, I invited him to come tonight, and he said he'd see if he could, and obviously he didn't. But part of the reason that I really wanted him to come is because of what happened when we had the community physicians here from the community clinic, is that we discovered that there were some real concerns that they had about their organization and its relationship to Medicare for All. And so one of his concerns is the way that Medicare handles chiropractic billing and some of the rules and regulations that they have. And I don't believe those are expressed or identified in that level of detail in the bill. And so I thought it would be really helpful for him to come and talk with us so that we could take that information to Pramila Jayapal or others, and we can have a conversation about that. And so the disagreement part, he was, real hesitant about that, but I said, if you're at all really interested in seeing if we can work this out, please do come, because it's not about us being opposed to each other. We have to figure out how to work together. And so we can't do that if we don't know what the problem is. So I think problem solving is really one of the things that we need to look at, so that we're not turning people off or turning them away or disavowing what their concerns are. Anyway, thank you. And I think that's one of the things that you guys do really well.
One of the biggest things going on for our organization and other single-payer organizations across the country is Pramila Jayapal's 1384. Are you guys mobilizing to support that?
Yes.
We certainly are.
Yeah.
So this is what I was speaking to, the 1834, and the National Nurses United have tried to make a big campaign for the whole U.S., and our part of the world, the Seattle greater area, is not mounting a good canvas map action center. Our group has produced 4, and whole Washington, how many have you done? I've only seen 1 on the map.
But that doesn't mean they've only done one, though.
Since I'm not sure.
Since February. So I have the phone numbers of people who expressed interest in doing this. I have not been able to sit down and get a hold of them all. I was hoping to get volunteers tonight to take 3 or 4 of those phone numbers home with them and make them their own, to call and invite them to say when a good date would be for them to be in a canvas, to create canvases these people can be invited to, and to set up showings for people who just don't really understand how much propaganda they get every day about why healthcare for all, HR 1384 won't work. And we're trying to do that with the Fix-It movies, because those are excellent. They have a 9-minute debunking the myth. It's like it's weight in gold.
Yeah.
How do we just get people to look at a 9-minute film about why it isn't true what they're hearing from their insurance company?
We're scheduling, until further notice, we're scheduling tabling events, and I think we've had pretty good success with the tabling events, because you can, even if you give somebody a flyer with the names of the movies on it, they can watch it on their own. So we're really promoting the movies, we're going out, and then we have a two-sided flyer. On the first side is all, at a glance, the most essential information about 1384, with the phone number and a script about how to contact your representative. So if your representative, you guys are familiar with this, I think. If your representative is already signed on, then you go to Nancy Pelosi. It bounces you to Nancy Pelosi, and you get to have a tally mark on her list. And so basically it's all about, building those numbers. And so we're definitely promoting 1384 and the movies, and we're trying to, again, get people just to open their minds a little bit too, because in order for this to really, really work, it can't just be us. It has to be, everyone has to be willing to consider it a viable option. And I really think that people are starting to see that this is really an option worth considering. And my new kind of catchphrase is Nordic capitalism, because I think that the socialism idea is people really, we're not talking about socialism or socialized medicine. And so I really feel like people need to watch some of these movies and understand it from an economic point of view. I think it really sells itself once people start considering it, but there's so many people it's a hard stop. So we're just really, really doing tons of education and outreach and tabling events and things like that.
Well, we wish we were.
That's 4 in a month.
I want to know, HR 1384 seems to have such a shelf life. The Rules Committee went pretty well, I thought.
Yeah.
I know the national news said it didn't, but listening to the whole thing, I thought it was very compelling. Yeah. And now we're coming up on a Ways and Means Committee, in which Susan Delbeni is a member.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to do next week, not next week, the last week in May, I want to go to Bellingham, find a way to show a movie and canvas there. And I'm looking for people who would like to go along. You can do a canvas with 2 people, but when you get a few, at the park we had like 10.
Oh, yeah.
And it was really a fun, it drew, our energy drew energy. So we need help, but it's a short shelf life.
So this kind of raises one of the big issues that we've struggled with. And there's some fundamental ideas about how you can organize. And one of those ideas is to recognize that there's some people who are already active and they're out doing stuff. There are people like Pam, she's already setting up canvases and leading events. Then there are people who attend those events and it will help Pam. They know, they agree, they believe, they're in the issue, they're willing to show up, and Pam set up the event and they show up and they help out. And then there are the people who come by the table and they're learning for the very first time about this. They've never heard about it before, they're open to learning about it, they're unaware and they're becoming aware. So when you look at the progression of what you're trying to accomplish with your activism, you're trying to give Pam all the resources and tools she needs to just unleash herself. Okay? We're trying to take the people who are Pam's assistants today and unleash them to lead one event. Just do one event where they're the leader and other people are helping them out. And we're trying to take people who've never actually gone to one of these events and helped out, and we're trying to get them to help out. So if you've never tabled, this is your challenge. Go to one event with Pam, with Paya, with any of these other folks. Just go to one event and help out. Do it a couple times. It matters. Taking that first step, taking that first action to actually show up and help out makes a huge difference. And you may think, oh, I'm just one person, what does it matter? But By your coming and helping Pam out, that lets Pam do more. So you have a multiplier effect. Every person that comes out and helps for one afternoon has a huge multiplier effect. And we're not asking people to get off their sofa and book a venue and show a movie and figure out everything. We're asking people to get off their sofa and help hand out leaflets at one event.
We started.
So,
I know.
it's a gateway.
Just take one flyer.
So if each of you will commit to helping with one event, and if you've already helped with one event, think about committing to starting one event. Think about one place, folk life. Are you willing to take some information down and just sit by the fountain at folk life and strike up conversations? Are you willing to go to your farmer's market? Strike up conversations. Where can you set up a table and just talk to people walking by? If you're willing to take that one step, it makes a world of difference. Just a world of difference. Taya wouldn't be doing this if you folks hadn't been at one event handing out leaflets.
True.
It makes a world of difference. So really, that's what we're asking, and that's what the challenge is for all of us, is to bring one more person to take one more step.
When we were having bills start to fail in the legislature this past session, we would call people, 5 people, and ask them to call 5 people, and ask them to call 5 people, and blah, blah, blah. And exponentially, it must have had some effect, because those things came out of the tank and rose again. So that was pretty exciting.
I really want
Well, I think healthcare is right now a very live topic. And when I was canvassing last year for 1600 at Folklife Festival, people were taking the things out of my hands and buying it. I couldn't even hardly hang on to it.
So what's the plan for folk life this year?
Pardon me?
What is the plan for folk life this year? What, have we got a leaflet? Have we got an event that's scheduled after folk life that people can attend? Yeah, I'm absolutely serious. I mean, we know what a great opportunity is, and we know this is a place where people have desperate needs, and it crosses every barrier you might imagine in American society. So what's the event that people are going to be asked to attend? What's the action that people are going to be asked to do when you hand out your leaflet at folk life?
Well, thank you for inviting us. It was really an honor.
Well,
and,
Thank you very much.
It's nice to get to know you a little,
And
little
thank you
more.
for what you're doing.
Yeah.
I mean, really, I mentioned before that one of the first things, as we got together, what can we do? We can amplify the voices of people who already know what they're talking about and have been studying these issues and doing the good work. And, you know, we're ever so grateful that you're here, that you have been here for so long, and that you're doing the good work, because without all the effort you put in over the years, we would be so much further behind.
This is the first place we came.
Well, there are a lot of resources out there, and we can help put you in touch with them, like the Health Over Profits for Everybody. Everyone, you know about that. Every 2 weeks, there's a national call. I think the Fix It guy was.
We have members that are routinely sitting in on those calls, and they report back to us.
Yes, you know, the one pair of states every
I'm not sure about that one.
one Friday a month, and I think this coming Friday, there's going to be, I think Richard Master was on there last month.
Yeah, and also the PNHP national website is also a great resource if you really want to get into the nitty-gritty of some of the policy and some of the strategy behind getting these bills moving.
You know, something that we didn't mention was that we have, that the Health and Wellness Group has a website, and I have links to I have a link to almost all those organizations, and a link to the Physicians for a National Health Plan national site, and with some of their, frequently asked questions, and some of their quick links for reading materials and stuff. So one of our standing actions is for people who find their way to us is to educate yourself and just learn as much as you can about it. So we do have links to all that on our website.
We have some pamphlets too that have a little bit about each of our groups and how to find us online.
At the Rules Committee, there was, it was good for the two strong single-payer witnesses, but the so-called neutral ones threw out a lot of baloney out there that the other witnesses didn't refute. Adam Gaffney, president of PNHP, put out a thing on Jacobin about refuting the idea that poor hospitals and rural hospitals would get screwed in Medicare for All. So I think that you guys should get a hold of that. It just came out 2 days ago because it's really full of a whole lot of detail and really refutes.
Yeah, absolutely. It's another thing that I had envisioned for us to do when we do our tabling events is to create, not just a flyer that NNU has made, but to create, like, have flyers with, like, at a glance information like that. So people understand that they don't have to read 20 pages. They can just get that kind of factual information. We have to debunk those myths, and we have to.
Like the one.
Yeah, because the centrist Democrats are really don't want to see Medicare for all.
Well, they don't want to
So-
break up the pharmaceutical industry,
They're
health
doing just
insurance
fine the way it
industry.
is.
Yeah.
They might not have a choice.
So we have to grow that understanding in the population to
Right.
the point where, a centrist Democrat doesn't dare say nonsense like that to their unhappy constituents who do not want that for
Information
their
is,
societal future.
accurate information is the antidote. We have to constantly be talking about this and getting the correct information out there. And that's why I think these tabling events are so important, and having a knowledgeable group going out, and if I don't know the answer, I just admit that I don't know the answer, but I just really feel like we have to be getting the correct and most accurate information out there, so.
But we also have to grow the effort.
Yeah.
I think that the key is that if only one person in the country is tabling, we get nowhere. We have to have this growth.
I think the opportunity for dialogue is what's really important. Because I think sometimes what will happen is that you won't know the answer, or they're going to raise an issue and you're going to say, wow, that's really a good issue. Why don't we just get together and talk that over, or let me see what I can find and I can get back to you. Or if you want to get in touch with me, you can come to one of our meetings, or we could do this or that or the other thing.
Come to the meeting with
But there's,
talk about it.
yeah, we, like you said, we are a democracy. And we don't have to be a capital D democracy. We can be a democracy of people who want to share information and understanding.
Of, by, and for the people.
That's right.